Hello everyone. Today we'll be looking at the eye, that's the human eye. So we'll look at the structures and we'll look at the function, how they carry out their function. So here I have a sketch. I look at the sketch, I have two lines. I'm going to use the outermost line as the outer layer, and I'm going to use the inner line as the inner layer. Now, you know, the outer layer is divided, it has a different position. The different position, the outer layer has different names. For example, this outer layer, the one at the back of the eye, is called sclera, while the one at the front is called cornea. So let me bring it this way. It's called cornea. Okay, so having known that, we're going to talk about this later on. Now, having known that, then the next thing I'm going to do, let's go ahead and introduce every other component of the human eye. Now, the first one we're going to talk about here is the iris. So I'm going to use this. Let me use a different color so that we can easily identify it. So I'm going to use this as the iris, the upper part, and I'm going to use this as the lower iris. So let me extend this further. Now, the reason why I prefer using blue is because of the fact that some people, you know, we have different color eyes. We have one of brown eye, one of blue eye, but brown eye is the most common. So, and it has to do with the light reflecting on it. That's what gives it the color you see. Okay, so now having labeled this, now let me call this the iris, and then this opening here, I'm going to call it the pupil. Now, the iris carries out different functions. One is the fact that iris reflects light. You know, a lot of light rays comes to the eye. Let's use these arrows as light rays coming to the eye. Okay. Now, some is going to hit the iris. So once they hit the iris, they're going to bounce back. That's what we call reflection. So they're going to bounce back, while the fewer number is going to pass through into the eye. Okay. So I'm going to let me use 1, 2, 3. So these are the 3 rays that can pass through because of the opening called the pupil that the iris controls. So okay, so when you are in a dark place, the iris expands to accommodate more pictures, but when you are when you light up the place, the iris contracts. Okay, so I'm sorry, it relaxes. So the iris relaxes to close up the space that allows light to pass through. So that's how iris and pupil works hand in hand. Okay, so now next thing, after this iris, let's talk about, let me clear this iris so I'll have a clear space to draw the next. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to come in contact with is the lens. So I'm going to draw the lens. So this is the eye lens, and then this eye lens is being held by something called the ciliary muscle. So I'm going to label this. Let me use black. So I'm going to label this the ciliary body. Let me call it body. Then I'm going to label this the lens. Now, another thing you need to know is this. So when light rays gets into the eye, it's going to pass through the iris, and I've told you the iris controls the amount of light that goes into the eyes by closing up or opening up. Now, the pupil is the opening that iris created for light to pass through, and then the next thing that's going to happen is that the few amount of rays that gets to the eye hits the eye lens. Okay, so once they get to the lens, now the lens is going to now create a perfect focus, which I don't want to talk about the focus now because of time. Okay, now, but the next thing that will happen is once the rays hit the lens will now focus the rays on the retina. That what brings us to the inner layer of the eye. So the inner layer of the eye, that's the back of the eye. The inner layer is called the retina. So I'm going to label this, I call it the retina. Now, retina carries out series of functions. One of them is that the retina is like a mirror. Retina receives the image. Retina is like a place where the image is being focused on. Now, lens will focus the image on the retina. Now, take for instance, you yourself, when you stand in front of a mirror, so what you see the image of you see right there on the mirror is how the retina works. So the mirror is a reflection of you. So the retina is a reflection of the image that came into the eyes as light. Okay, so that's what called the retina. So once the image hits the retina, now the next thing that's going to happen is that on the retina there are kind of a cable-like substance, which is also known as the nerve. So I'm going to call this the nerve. There are different types of nerve. Now for the eye we call it the optic nerve. Now once image gets to the retina, focus on the retina, now the optic nerve is going to pick up the image and sends it to the brain for interpretation. So that's what the brain does. Okay, so this here, then also before I want you to also take note of inside of the eye here there are two specific humor or liquid substance within the eyes. So this part is called, we call this part the vitreous humor. I'll call it VH, vitreous humor. Why this one after this place here, there is immediately after the cornea, is called the aqueous humor. Another it is AH. Now aqueous humor is made of liquid, while aqueous humor is made of liquid. There is water, while vitreous humor is made of a glass-like substance, or call it a glassy substance, something that is shiny, that has a quality kind of like a glass. Okay, so we call it the word vitreous when the word glassy. Okay, so these two fluid that we have here helps in the focusing, the receiving, and the focusing of image within the eye. Okay, so I'm going to run it again. So first of all, the light comes in through the cornea into the aqueous humor. From the aqueous humor, some of the light rays hits the iris and gets reflected, while some goes through the hole called the pupil that the iris created. Now from the pupil it hits the eye lens. Okay, now this eye lens is held together by what we call the ciliary body. So the ciliary body are two, one is up and one is down. So this ciliary body is a muscle that contracts and relaxes the lens in order to get a proper accommodation. Okay, so when the image the light gets to the lens focuses the image on the retina. So this retina is the inner layer of the eye. Now the retina is what focuses the image. Now next thing I want you to take note of here is the fact that there's what we call the image mirror image. Now when the image hits the retina, the image is inverted. The image is turned upside down. Okay, that's the mirror image. Same thing goes when you stand in front of the mirror. You will see a reflection of you, but it's not going to be accurate, as in it's going to be inverted in terms of your right becomes your left becomes your right. Okay, so that's what we call mirror image. So once the image gets focused on the retina, then the optic nerve that's connected to the retina will pick up the signal and then sends it to the brain for interpretation. Thank you.